Hello, friends, and thank you for joining me here at Non Toxic Home today. I am very glad that you are here. I've been getting a lot of emails lately from various seed companies telling me it's time for me to start my tomatoes indoors. Get on it, Leanna. Well, there are multiple reasons I'm not starting my tomatoes indoors, and there are multiple reasons why for many, many years I haven't started my tomatoes indoors. Number one, if you bring soil into your home, you're bringing mold spores into your home, potentially mycotoxins. I recommend against having houseplants in your home. I understand the benefits of houseplants, but there are risks as well. This is something to consider. So we don't have plants in our house for a reason. There's number one. Number two is that I'm work averse. I have limited energy, and I have since I was 13 years old. So I have to figure out what works for me, yet requires the least amount of energy. Now, if I am having to transplant things, that typically takes more energy for me than if I can directly plant it. If I am having to have something in my home that potentially makes me sick because of the mold, and also requires a lot of spritzing or spraying of water, that increases the humidity. You don't want to increase the humidity in your home unless it's wintertime and you need the humidity. And that's more work for me. I don't want to do more work. So is there another solution? Yes. There are actually multiple solutions, and I'll drop a link below to my winter sowing guide that I wrote about a year ago. And you got to scroll down through a whole bunch of information because I wrote it due to the zombie apocalypse of 2020. Insanity. So what I am doing right now about tomatoes is nothing. I'm going to tell you why. First of all, I've got other priorities right now. I need to get trees and bushes in the ground and mulch spread around. And I got to do some chicken care stuff. So you might be thinking, oh, well, you must be planning to purchase your tomato plants this year. No, I will not be purchasing my tomato plants this year. We live in USDA Zone 6A, which is kind of sort of useless as far as the zones go, because in one area there's so much variability as to the temperatures, average temperatures over the year, and I understand there is some benefit, but please don't get your brain stuck on the growing zones. Think beyond that. Think outside of the box, or like we do, recognize that there is no box. The box is manufactured for you. So we grow tomatoes God's way. How do we do that? Well, for one, like I said, we don't artificially start them inside in the warmth. You got to harden them off in order to get them back outside, and you've got to ensure about the sunlight, and there's all these other things that can go wrong. I don't like to mess with things that are setting me up for potential failure. I would rather do something, try it, and see if it works, and then if it's less work, do that. So what I do, because I'm the one that does the gardening, is that I actually put my tomato seeds directly in the ground where they're going to be growing. And those seeds then grow into tomato plants. I do like to have them starting a little bit earlier than they normally would, though, as far as the soil temperatures go. And there are 3 ways that you can accomplish this. And you don't have to spend much money, I promise. 1, you can grab some solo cups. Clear solo cups. They don't have to be solo brand, obviously. But clear plastic cups. Drill holes in the bottom. Can you see them here? I got 3 holes here. Now, using the solo cups, you might consider drilling a larger hole. I never did that, but it's something to consider. I just used the drill bit that I happened to have handy at the time. I've used hundreds of these in the garden. They help your plants get started a little bit earlier. It's basically a small greenhouse effect. The problem with these and having these small holes is that it doesn't let as much moisture in as is desirable. So if you use these specifically, you're going to have to water underneath more often. It's not that big of a deal. What you do is you just take it right over where you have the seeds and you literally screw it into the ground so that if there's wind, it doesn't go flying. I've only had, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 go flying over the past couple years. And considering that I've used hundreds in the past couple of years out in the garden, that's pretty darn good. Another thing you can do is go to your local Habitat for Humanity Restore or other building supply warehouse that specializes in used products. You can also go to a thrift store potentially. And you want these lighting covers. You want these glass light covers. Now what I did is that I called around to the various Habitat for Humanity stores, and we actually ended up going up to Indianapolis, which is about an hour away, at one point, and we bought, I think, 60 or so because they had so many there. Now, they don't have to be just like this. They don't have to look exactly like this. I do have some that are, huge, this big. The key is that you want to be sure that there's holes here. Now, I do have some that are very similar to this one that have just 2 small holes, and those, again, like the solo cups, I have to water underneath more often because they dry out more quickly and they don't allow as much moisture from the sky if it rains to get down in there. These, I love them. Obviously, the one drawback is that they're glass and they can break, but on the other hand, they're glass. They're not plastic. They're totally non-toxic. We have probably about 100 of these, and they are just wonderful. I absolutely love using glass cloches. You do not have to go to Gurneys.com or whatever other website and spend a fortune on glass cloches when you can go to a place such as Habitat for Humanity and buy them for 25 cents, 50 cents, $1 max each. And I love these. They're wonderful. Now, when you're done, then you just set them aside. I have a little pile of them in an area, which probably is not the best solution as far as storage goes, but we don't have a lot of storage around here. So that's another option. Another absolutely free option is gallon milk jugs or gallon vinegar jugs, whatever you use them for. Also, people use them for water. You get them for free, right, from the grocery store, so don't throw them away. What you can do is just cut off the bottom like this, and this is ideal for tomato. If it's going to freeze and you've got tomato plants that you've already taken these off of, and so you can't fit these on because your tomato plant's too big, so you take this and you put this over your tomato plant, and it'll protect your tomato plant from frosts. And obviously they can grow up pretty significantly high in there. Now, one of the things to consider when it's time to remove your cloches from your plants is that you want to do it typically in the afternoon when things are not scorching, when the sun is not scorching on your plants. If you take it off in the morning, that's kind of a shock to your plants. Whereas if you take it off in the afternoon, then they have a little bit more time to acclimatize, and you got to keep an eye on them because they can scorch a little bit in the sun, just like they can if you take them directly from inside to outside. So you don't have to start tomato plants inside, and you don't have to start them now. I have a friend who used to live in northern Indiana, and when I posted about my winter sowing article, she said that what she used to do is that when she would can, I think it was her Roma tomatoes every year, some kind of tomatoes she planted and grew and canned every year. What she did is she would take the pulp and the seeds from that, and she would dig a trench in one of her raised beds, and then she would put the pulp in the raised bed, cover it with soil, and then in springtime, those plants would come up. And she wouldn't have to do anything. They just grow for her. And she'd get more tomato plants. Obviously, if you are in a northern climate and you're growing very long season tomatoes, that sort of idea probably won't work so well. But I have used, at the same time, tomatoes that I started from seedlings and tomatoes that I started from my solo cup method or my glass cloche method, and they fruited at the same time. Don't make gardening and everything else as complicated as mainstream wants you to think it is. It truly isn't. For example, you cannot listen to what they tell you that you can't do. Because when I plant my tomatoes, I usually plant 4 seeds at a time. Now, I do not like to throw seedlings away because that seed worked really hard to get up out of that ground, and I paid money for that seed, or I took time to save that seed. So I don't want to waste that energy and that time. As a result, what I've done in the past few years, when my tomatoes have come up and I've needed to thin them, is I have taken my tomato plants and I've gone to our south side hill, and we have very heavy clay soil, okay? This is clay soil. If you want to, start a kiln, this is the place to grow or place to move to, because it's such heavy clay. Now, if you look online, you'll be told by the so-called experts that it is impossible to grow tomatoes in clay soil. They'll also tell you can't grow on a hill. Guess where I planted tomato seedlings? On a hill in very heavy clay soil. The first year I did it, it was just an experiment. I figured, I didn't have another place in the garden to put them, so it's not going to harm anything. The worst case scenario, it doesn't work. That is the worst case scenario. When you are trying gardening things, the worst case scenario is it doesn't work and you got some free therapy out of it. So that's what I did. And I mulched heavily with leaves. Now, you're also not supposed to use unbroken up leaves. You're supposed to, break them up real well before you put them on your garden. Well, I don't do that. If there's a pile of leaves, I grab the pile of leaves and I throw them down wherever I need them to mulch. And it works. The experts, so-called experts, will tell you that you have to break it up. That's not true at all. I've never had a problem doing that. And so that's how I planted them, and we got a ton of tomatoes. As long as I remember to water them every now and then. Towards the end of the season, that first season, I forgot to water them. And you know what? I don't think I forgot. I think I just got too sick. And so I wasn't able to water them, but we still got tomatoes even when I wasn't doing anything to water them at all, because they were mulched, even though they were on a hillside. So don't believe whatever you're told that you can't do when it comes to gardening, because most likely there's a reason behind telling you not to do it, and it probably isn't for your benefit. I hope this has helped you to learn a little bit about how we grow tomatoes God's way, with less work, less pressure, less worry, less everything. Please get out there and experiment. Like I said, worst case scenario, it doesn't work. You learn something, because you learn more from failures than from successes, and you get some free therapy out of it. Thanks so much for being here, friends. Have a most beautiful and blessed day. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, drop a comment below. Let me know if you've done other similar renegade rebel things in the garden, and let me know what works for you. I will talk to you later.